Okay, here we go. So we are on 74b, and we just mentioned that Reish Lakish had this halacha about the barrel of wine that's mixed up. If it falls out into the ocean, so then you say the one that was prohibited fell out, the barrel of truma, and the rest are permitted. Now, the sealed barrel was one of those things that are very chashuv, they are of importance, and they do not get nullified. So now, says, where are we? Yeah, Amar Rabba. So 8-9 lines down, 74b. Amar Rabba. Lo hit to Reish Lakish alachavis the mikra nefilasav al te'eno lo. So says Rabba that Reish Lakish really he only permitted, meaning right, he said that if a barrel of truma falls and gets mixed up, and then one of them falls out into the ocean, so then they're all going to be permitted. But he says that's only by a barrel because it's very clear when a barrel is missing. Then you could assume that it was the one that was prohibited, and the rest are permitted. Aval te'ena, a fig that's prohibited for whatever reason, orla, let's say, such a fig, we're not going to say that dispensation. But Rabbi Yosef Amar, no, afilu te'ena, even a fig. Why? Kinefilasa kachaliyasa. Just like a fig is going to, when it's here, it's here. When it falls away, it falls away. Just like when it fell into the bunch, what do we say? We noticed it, and it prohibits the entire bunch. So too, when it falls out of the bunch, we're going to permit the entire mixture. So a debate. Did Reish Lakish only say what he said by a barrel and not a fig, or even a fig? Fine. So here you have a sealed barrel of truma wine that fell into 100 barrels of permitted wine. So Rav Elazar says what you could do is, as long as it's sealed, it's something which is of importance and will prohibit the entire mixture. So what do? So open it. Posech achas, man, you can open the barrel, and what do? The notel heimena kidei dimu of a. So you open up the barrel, you open it up. After you open it up, so now it's an interesting thing. You can take out the amount. You can take out a certain amount. How much do you take out? Well, percentage-wise, there's one barrel of truma with 100 barrels of permitted wine. So you open up a barrel and you take out of that barrel 1/100th, and that will be considered the truma that's taken out of the mixture. You take out 1/100th because if you don't take out truma, so it's like stealing from the Kohen. The Kohen gets something. Good morning, Charles and Dama. So if you but
we're back.
But what do you? But therefore, you take out the percentage. It's just interesting because you have an entire barrel of truma mixed in 100 barrels. That's a lot of truma. And the solution is open up one barrel and take out of that one barrel 1/100th. Meaning, percentage-wise, you have much more truma than you're going to have. But I guess the point is that once you open up the barrel, so now it gets nullified in the bunch because it's really 1/100, right? The sealed barrel doesn't get nullified. An open barrel does get nullified. And there's 100 permitted ones corresponding to it. So really we should say it's permitted. However, you have to take out a little bit. A little bit has to go to the Kohen. You take out 1/100. Because if not, it's considered like stealing from the Kohen. That's Rabbi Elazar's leniency. Yosef Ravdimi v'kamar l'hala hashmaitzo. So he was sitting down and saying over this teaching, Amarle Rav Nachman, Dama, the Shasi kachazina hacha. But you're just gonna literally, I think, swallow and drink. That's what you see over here. You can't open up a barrel if a barrel falls in and it prohibits the entire mixture. You can't go and open it up. So Ella, what do? If one got opened up, if one got opened up, so then you could take from it kidei dimua b'shosa. You could take from it the 1/100th and then drink. So
we view from the truma being one barrel,
right,
to being 100 of each barrel.
Yes, I think the logic is because Really, if a barrel falls into 100 permitted barrels, it should be nullified. Because that's the rule by Truma, 100 corresponding to it. Since it's a sealed barrel, it has importance. So anything which is important is not nullified. It prohibits the entire mixture. Once it either you open it or it's opened, two opinions, then it really goes back to being nullified. But at the end of the day, there's still some truma here that's going to belong to the Kohen. So really, it's nullified. So really, it's all permitted. But it sounds like there's you should take out a little bit of it to give to the Kohen. Really, you don't have to. It's all permitted. But at the end of the day, it sounds like it sounds like it's a rabbinic law. Since there was at one point things that belong to the Kohen here, even though it became nullified, so you still should take a little bit out. That's true, but yeah, I'm also not 100% clear exactly in the full rationale, but I think the starting point is that really it's nullified. Really, that's why it's one huge barrel. Only take out 100 of a barrel. How does that work? Right. Since it's really nullified, really you should take out nothing. There's a special law on top of that. You take out a little bit. I think that's yeah. Okay. Amar of Oshia Chavishal Truma Avra b'Me'ah v'Chamishim Chaviyos. One barrel of truma, sealed barrel, gets mixed in 150 barrels. So now, v'niftichu me'ah mehem. So now 100 barrels get opened up. So once again, a sealed barrel has importance and it prohibits the entire mixture and it's not nullified. Here you have now 151 barrels. One of truma got mixed into 150 permitted barrels. 100 get opened up. So what do? So you do like this. No tel heimena kidei dimua v'shosa. Once they're opened up, so that there's no longer the mixture is no longer prohibited. And what do? You take out now 1 out of 151. The ratio, you take it out. That'll go to the Kohen. V'shosa. And then you can drink the rest of the barrels. Then you could drink the rest of the barrels. Yeah. Right. Then you could drink the rest of the barrels. Yeah. The shar isurin ad sheyiftechu. The shar isurin ad sheyiftechu lo amrinan. Sorry. The shar isurin ad sheyiftechu lo amrinan isura beruba isay. You don't assume that the prohibited truma is in the robe, meaning you have 100 barrels opened up, 51 barrels are still closed. One of these barrels is going to be is truma. So where is it? Is it in the group of 51 or is it in a group of 100? So here you don't say that the one of them is in the group of 100. Therefore, in the group of 100, as long as it's opened up and you take out a ratio, they're going to be permitted. Now, why are they not in the group of 100? We always say you go after the robe. I don't know. Where Rashi points out, you don't take out one of the 100 barrels. Meaning, right? We had a case earlier where you had 60 and 40 of the rings. So there you did assume the ring was part of the 60. Here we're saying opposite. When you have 151 barrels, and they get split 151, you do not assume that the barrel is somewhere in the 100. If you were to assume that, you'd have to remove one of the barrels from the 100 and assume that was the one that was taken. But you don't do that. You don't do that. Rather, you take out 151st of the amount, and that's going to go to the Kohen, and the rest is going to be permitted. Yeah. Interesting to know what the difference between that and the Avodah Zarah rings. Okay. So Haroveya v'Hanirba, and it's going to be a treifa also, right? So in the Mishnah, we had an animal that was sacrificial. It's supposed to say a korban got mixed into a bunch. So one of the examples was if it was a treifa. So if it gets mixed into a treifa, so then a treifa is something which cannot be offered up. So if a treifa gets mixed into the bunch, the entire bunch is going to be now prohibited, because since you cannot offer a treifa up to the temple, and each one might be the treifa, so therefore it's going to be prohibited. So now the Gemara is going to ask additional makul who lo yediyah. The rest of them, okay, kilayim or sodomization. Okay, you have no idea which is which. But a treifa, shouldn't a treifa be pretty clearly identifiable? Hayi treifa, hechidami. What's the case where a treifa, an animal that has a fatal wound, got mixed with a bunch and you have no idea which one it is? So, if you know that this is the treifa, so go take it and remove it. And ilo yadale, and if you have no idea what's the treifa, how do you know that a treifa got mixed in the bunch? How do you know? If it looks like a regular animal, so they have no idea that a treifa got mixed in, so why is it prohibited? If you know a treifa got mixed in, so locate it and remove it. What's the case where a treifa got mixed in, but you don't know what it is? We're going to have three answers. So, ilo yadile minayada de yare, how you know got mixed in? So first answer. Armi de Rabbi Yanai, hacha mayaskinon. It's a very interesting case. Kigon, they're going to argue on him, but it's interesting. Like, what was his rationale? Kigon the arev nekuvas hakots. So one animal got a thorn inside of it. Got what's the word? A thorn gets put inside. Was it? He got thorned? No. So he got a thorn got put inside. He got plucked, not plucked. He got whatever. He got a thorn inside of him, and Bidru says if an other animal got clawed by a wolf. Now the claw of the wolf, that's like I don't know if it's rabies by a wolf, but it gives over some lethal things over there, venom, and therefore that would cause animal to be a treifa. But it sounds like other animals have these holes with the thorns, and apparently you can't tell. You have to say that it's not enough of a discernible difference between getting a thorn and being clawed by a wolf. Because if it was discernible, just take the animal that was clawed by a wolf and remove it. But we don't say that. So, yeah, so that's the first answer. It's a case where you have this one got hit by a thorn, this one got clawed by a wolf. Okay, so some animal here got clawed by a wolf. We don't know which one it is. But the other ones also have some kind of blemishes, some kind of, bruises on them. So, that's the first answer. Second answer, Reish Lakish Amar Kigon Di Arev Binefula. So this is an animal that fell off from a high area. Let's say it fell off a roof or something. So now Reish Lakish says that it's going to be a treifa. Now says the Gemara, Nefula Nami Livdika. At first glance, the simple case is it fell. So it cannot walk. So go test it. See if it walks. If it stands on all fours, you're good. If not, not. Says Reish Lakish, no. Kasavar amda tzricha me'es la'es halcha tzricha b'dika. Reish Lakish holds that even if it could stand, that's not a definite sign of it not being a treifa, because it sounds like it might have some internal wounds. Yeah, it might have some internal wounds. On the other hand, so that's one. If it could stand, it might have internal wounds. And even if it's walking and you shechted it, you still have to check internally to see if one of the inner limbs was fatally wounded. So meaning, at the time that you're slaughtering the animal to bring as a sacrifice, it's a suffix treifa. It's a suffix treifa because so if it cannot walk, well, maybe it's a treifa. And even if it could walk, maybe it has internal wounds, and therefore it's also a treifa. So at the time you slaughter it, it's a suffix treifa. So that cannot be brought up onto the altar. Yeah. And says Rashi, since it already was established as a suffix treifa when you slaughtered it, that's not proper. That's not fitting to be brought up to the altar. He invokes a verse, which, if I remember correctly, is a similar verse that's invoked when you steal an animal and you want to bring it up. It's like disgusting to the altar to bring such things up. So that's Reish Lakish. So here's a case where it fell down, and even if it's walking, you still cannot discern if it's a treifa or not. That's Reish Lakish. Yeah, exactly. It's a walking. Yeah, exactly. Like we have a dead man walking by in Sanhedrin. Yeah. So that's the third answer is Rabbi Yirmiyah. Amar Kigon the Are de Vlad Treifa. The opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says Vlad Treifa lo yikari. That's in Tmura. We're gonna have to wait. So that the offspring of a treifa is also cannot be offered up on the altar, and therefore it'll prohibit the whole bunch. But this is the easiest, at least in terms of least discernible cases. This is a regular animal, and you don't know which one of the animals came from a treifa. So therefore, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the entire bunch is going to be prohibited. So yeah.
That didn't bring the other.
Is it like this?
Where somebody says to the guy, there's a second there, I'll tell you which, and he dies.
It's a treifa there, I'll tell you which, and then the guy dies.
And the guy dies.
That's interesting.
Before he tells
Before he tells you.
you.
Okay.
We've seen that in all sorts of other places.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So that's now. Why does each opinion not hold like the other? We have three opinions over here. So, Kuhu Kribiyani lo amri bein kupas hakol just as Zev made the idea. Hayi mashich, v'hayi eagle. The reason why the other two opinions, Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rish Lakish, didn't want to say that the first opinion of Rabbi Yanai by the thorn and the wolf and the animal that got clawed by a wolf is because hayi mashich v'hayi agil. The wounds look a little bit different. One is the wolf. It's not a circular wound. It's more of like a straight line, elongated wound. Okay, and the thorn is more circular. So that should be enough of a discernment to know which is which. It's obviously a very gray area. Rabbi Yana held that it was not enough discernible, for whatever reason, and they held it was. That's why they didn't say like him. Resh Lakish Lami, they didn't say like Resh Lakish, who said that it's a suffix treifa. Why? Kasavri, they hold if it's umdo, so then aina tricha mesleis. If the animal is walking, so then you don't need to be worried that maybe it had some fatal wounds and therefore render it a suffix treifa. No, if it's walking for 24 hours, it'll be considered a valid animal, and therefore they disagree with Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yirmiyah Lami, the last opinion, because Rabbi Eliezer lo mukmi. They don't want to make this mission like Rabbi Eliezer. He's a novel opinion that a vlad treifa, the offspring of a treifa, is going to also be prohibited to be brought up. Okay, those are the three answers. Kachim bekachim min b'mina. So we said the next part of our mission is said that when the offerings get mixed up together, so you had same offerings that mixed together, right? So you don't know what to do. So what do you do? So we said, if it's the same offering, so we both bring olas, we both bring shlomins, we both bring chatas offerings, whatever it is, it just got me that we forgot which animal belongs to which owner. So the Mishnah said that's not a problem. The Kohen says, this animal will be brought for whoever its owner is, and this animal will be brought for whoever its owner is. The problem is that the owners have to do smicha. They have to lean on the animal. So which one do they lean on? It needs smicha, so you can't just do that. If you don't know whose is whose, how do you bring up the animal? It needs smicha. Yeah, well, there's a long post. Just the whole next page. Okay, so it needs smicha. So what do? So Amar of Yosef, the korban nashim. Females bring a korban. They don't have to do smicha on the animal. They don't have to lean on the animal. So that's the case we're talking about. Aval b'korban anashim lo. But if it was a case of a male korban, the males brought the korban, so then you're right, you're stuck. You can't bring it because no one can do smicha on it. I mean, to me, it seems like the assumption is that without smicha, you can't bring it. If you brought it, what would happen? I don't know. I don't remember it being an essential one of the. I don't know. Okay. Either way, Eisvei Abaye says, is this really true that if it doesn't need smicha, you can't bring it? Eisvei Abaye says, korban yachid. So you have the korban of an individual shenis arid, because it's going to be a long price, and then we'll see the part that we need. Korban yachid shenis arid, korban yachid. So individual's offering gets mixed up with another individual's offering. The korban tzibur shenis arba the korban tzibur, and a communal offering gets mixed with communal offerings. The korban yakam the korban tzibur shenis arba zebazet, and a personal offering and a communal offering gets mixed up together. What do? No saying arba matanos mikol echad ve'echad. You have to apply 4 applications onto the altar from each one of the offerings that's there. If you offer one application onto the altar, one blood application, that's going to suffice because that's the minimal requirement. If you do 4 from each one, that's good too. That's only if live animals got mixed together. If after they were already slaughtered, now they got mixed up together, so now no saying arba matanos mikulan. Then you have to give 4 applications from all of them. If you give one of them, then it's good to go. So we're gonna need this part that once they were shechted, they now got mixed together. Once they were alive, they got mixed together, and you can still bring them. Because if they got mixed when they were alive, then there's no smicha. And yet it says you can bring them. Fine. So you have alive animals got mixed together and shchutin and dead animals got mixed together. Rabbi Omer, he says, Rowan es hamatana im yeshbak kedai lezeh kedai lezek sheiro v'yimlav psula. So Rebbe apparently, interestingly enough, requires some kind of minimal requirement of blood for each application. So he says it depends. You have to look into the cup and see, is there enough blood here assuming that there's a minimal requirement of blood for each offering, is there enough of that minimal requirement of blood? If yes, so go apply it onto the altar. If not, then not. Yeah. Okay. So now, fine. That's the brisa. Kitani, let's go back to the brisa. Yachid dumya detzibur. The brisa compares the individual offering to a communal offering. Mat tzibur gavri af yachid gavri. Just like the communal offerings are brought by men and not by women, so too the individual offerings in the brisa should also include male offerings to make it the brisa be the same case. It's talking about communal offerings. That's only brought by men. Why? Because it has to be from the half shekel, and the half shekel is only a requirement for the males. Of course, the women get atoned from the communal offerings, but the obligation is for the males. So that's only a male offering. However, therefore, the personal offering in the brisa is also referring to a male. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is and now what happened in the brisa? The brisa said that if they got mixed up when they were alive, you could go and still bring them. How could you do that? Where's the smicha? You need smicha. So, yeah. So it says the Gemara, Amarava, Miktizbra, Amataratztahi. Like, you're taking the brisa, assuming that the brisa itself has no problems, and then you're asking a question. The brisa itself is going to have a problem. What's the problem? The following. Dikatani b'medvar amurim kishinas aru chayin avalnas aru shkutin lo. So, what is the difference if the animals got mixed up when they were alive or when they're dead? Why does the brisa make that difference? At the end of the day, who cares? At the end of the day, you have blood mixed together in a cup. Who cares if it came from a live animal, it came from a dead animal? Why is that a relevant fact? So, to that, the Gemara says, Mali Chai, Mali Shkutin. Who cares if they're alive? Who cares if they're dead? The blood is mixed together. The question is, what do you do? 4 applications, 1 application. Ella, what do you have to say? Hachi Kamar. B'medvar mamurim kishinas arbu shkutin ke'ein chayim b'kosos. We're really talking about animals that are totally shechted. And because if the blood is mixed up, what does it mean? Well, it was mixed up from a live animal, from a dead animal. What does that mean? No, it means like this. It was mixed together when it was dead, when it was shechted already. Ke'ein chayim b'kosos. Just like when it was alive, it was identifiable. So too, when it's slaughtered now, the blood is inside the cups. If it's identifiable in the cups, then you bring it. Aval b'bolel, if it's all mixed together, then you have to bring nosin arba matanas lekulan. The nosin matana achas lekulan yatsa. So if it's in cups, the blood is in cups, and so each cup you have to bring for that sacrifice its amount, 4 for each. If it was all mixed together, it's all one mission, it's all one cholent, then you bring 4 for all of them. If you only did 1 for all of them, that will suffice. So basically, what do? We just proved to you that the brisa is not talking about living animals. It's talking about dead animals. What it meant to say, when do you need 4 applications for each one of the animals that got mixed together? When it's similar to when it was alive. When it was alive, you can see this animal, that animal, this animal, that animal. So too when it's dead now and it's identifiable like it when it was alive, meaning it's in cups. There's let's say 10 sacrifices here. So you have 10 cups of blood. From each cup, you'll bring 4 applications. As opposed to if it all got mixed together, you have 10 sacrifices of 10 blood of 10 sacrifices in 1 cup. And now what do? So now you bring 4 applications total. If you only brought 1, you'll be good to go. But basically, you can't ask the question on smicha because the Bryce is not talking about living animals. It's talking about all animals that are dead. It just used the word alive as a reference, to refer to it being organized in cups, but not to tell you that it's talking about live animals. Fine. Now, within this Bryce, Rebbe said, if it's all mixed together in 1 cup, you don't take 4 total. You have to look and figure out, is there enough blood in this cup that would cover the minimal blood application for each one of the animals? Assuming that there is a minimal application of blood. So if that's true, we're going to ask a question on Rebbe himself from another area. And obviously, one of the answers is going to be that we're not going to compare the 2 areas. Rebbe Omer, look in this 1 big cup with tons of blood and figure out 10 animals, how much blood. Is there enough blood here for 4 applications for each animal? If yeah, you're good to go. If not, it's possible. You can't do it. Says the Gemara, where did Rebbe get this from? That you have to have a minimal application of blood, therefore you have to calculate. Where'd that come from? The Hatanya, Rebbe said that according to Rabbi Eliezer, which is talking about the mechatas, when you have to sprinkle the blood, sprinkle the ashes of the red heifer mixed with water. We're going to see this in 5 pages from now. So if it's mixed together, even with invalid water, Rebbe says that according to Rabbi Eliezer, even the smallest amount of sprinkling of that water that purifies someone from the dead, from being tamei meis, from being impure, even a little bit, even if it's mixed together with invalid water, you have some of it's valid, some of it's invalid, even the smallest amount will still purify. So you see that Rabbi Eliezer does not have a minimum requirement when it comes to sprinkling on somebody who is contaminated by a dead body. So how come over here he does? So Hazah ain't a tricha shir. Hazah does not need a requirement. There's no minimum requirement. Hazah mekta kasher mekta pasul. If you have even in the water itself with the ashes, you have some of it is valid, some of it is invalid. You could still sprinkle it, and the guy will become pure. Yeah. So, and this is Rebbe speaking. So how come by us, because of blood applications, Rebbe says, no, you have to have a minimal requirement. So 2 answers. One answer is going to be Lidvar of Rebbe Eliezer Kamar. Rebbe was just saying, according to Rebbe Eliezer. He wasn't saying, I agree with Rebbe Eliezer. He was saying, according to Rebbe Eliezer. So that's not a question on Rebbe. Rebbe could maintain you always need a minimal requirement. He was just speaking in the world of Rebbe Eliezer. That's one answer. Or second answer, everybody's saying, you made an assumption. We're comparing the 2 applications to each other, the blood application and the sprinkling to purify from a dead as another application. But that's not true. They're very different. And Rebbe will differentiate, even though by blood he'll need a minimum requirement. But by sprinkling onto a dead person, he will not need a minimum requirement. Why should there be a difference? Is a good question. You have to know, why does atonement require a minimal requirement, but purification does not require a minimal requirement? That's interesting food for thought. Okay, next. So animal got mixed up. A bechor animal or a meiser animal got mixed in the bunch. And now we're going to have a lot of questions about a bechor, basically. So, Amar Rami Bar Chama, bechor lebei Shammai ein ma'achilin lenidos. A bechor, and we're going to see, even if it's blemished, has some level of sanctity, and therefore, according to Beis Shammai, it cannot be given to a nida to eat. Meaning she's a level of impurity. Neither, I think it's the same thing if it would be a zav or a zava. Anybody who has that kind of bodily emission that renders them impure, since the bechor has it's kodesh, it's holy. Even if it got a mum, even if it got a blemish, still maintain the level of sanctity, and therefore you cannot, so to speak, impurify it by feeding it to a nida. Now, tmurasa mahu. What about if you exchange its sanctity onto another animal? Can that be eaten by a nida? So, bechor eno nifta. A bechor you can't redeem it. Listen to the Torah, you cannot redeem a bechor. Tmurasa mahu. What if you exchange its sanctity onto another animal? Could you redeem that animal? Bechor eno nishka bolitra. We're going to see that a bechor, it could be to debate if it's rabbinic or not rabbinic. I think Rashi holds it's rabbinic. That if you have a bechor that got a blemish, so you can't weigh it. You can't weigh it to sell on the market. It's like a zilzal. It's like a disgrace to holiness to weigh it like other meat and sell it. So you can't do that either. You can't be mezalzel and you can't disgrace it. Okay, what about its tmura? What about its, if you exchange the sanctity onto another animal, can you do it over there? So 3 questions by a tmura of a bechor. The exchanged animal, the one that now has the sanctity of the bechor. Amar Rava Tanya. This is all going to go back to our mission eventually. So Tanya bechoru meiser mishahumamu osim tmura. The bechor or the 10th animal, once they get a blemish, you can now exchange the sanctity of this blemished bechor onto another animal. Utmurasan kayotze bahen. But you should know that what the exchange animal is the same as it, meaning whatever would apply by a regular bechor, you cannot feed it to a nida, you cannot redeem it, and you cannot weigh it, will apply to the tmura as well. So now you have a bechor, and you want to, it got a blemish. And basically, you want to weigh it and use the money to support the upkeep of the temple. Hitvis bechor lebedek abayis. So, okay, so now, so it's a little complicated, but what happened over here? It got mixed together. No, not yet. Not yet. Okay, that's coming up right now. So you have an animal that got a mum, that got a blemish, and you want to know, can you weigh it in order to give money to the temple? So really, usually you can't weigh it to just sell it on the market. That's already going to be a zilzal. That's disgraceful for it. But here, what are you doing? You're taking one sanctity of a bechor, and you wanted to weigh it to give the money to sanctity, to the Beis HaMikdash. So is that considered a disgrace or not? So here's where our Mishnah comes in. So Tashma, Nis'ara b'bechor b'meiser. So you have animals that are mixed together. One of them is a bechor. One of them is a firstborn animal. What do? Yiru achi stov. You have to let them graze until they get a wound, until they get a blemish. And then v'yochlu kibechor ukemeiser. So I think we mentioned that if they got mixed together with other animals, you transfer the sanctity of the other animals onto onto something. Now the remaining animals become chulin. So now you really have chulin and bechor together. And what do? You can eat them. You can eat them kibechor ukemeiser. So now 1 second. Why do you do that? There should be another solution. You could 1 second. Instead of giving them all 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, meaning what did you do? When you have this bechor mixed with the other animals, the other, let's say, sacrificial animals, you transferred their kedusha onto the other animals, onto something, made them mundane, and then you eat them. But why don't you just, instead of doing that, why don't you just weigh all the animals, and then you could sell them to to the temple, to the Beit HaKabayis. Why don't you do that? So you have all the animals are now a potential bechor, which is blemished. So just take them, weigh them. Each one you could weigh it, and then you can give that money. You could sell it and give that money to the temple mount. The fact that our mission didn't offer that solution shows that would be considered a zilzul. That you can't do. So all you're left to do is to eat them. Lav lememra de eno nishkal belitra. Do you not see from the Mishnah that you cannot weigh them at all, even though you're going to save money? The money's going to go to the upkeep of the temple. So to that we say, Rav Huna Reb Chizkiya, Talmid Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amri, they said, no, it's very different. Me dummy, our mission is very different than a regular case. Why? Hasam shtei kedushos v'shnei gufin. Our mission is talking about you have regular sacrificial offerings, and you have the sanctity of a firstborn. That's called shtei kedushos. And it's shtei gufin. It's two different animals. One is regular sacrifices. One is a bechor. So therefore, you cannot go and take one sanctity and, so to speak, disgrace it. It's two different sanctities. So you can't take now the sanctity of the bechor and disgrace it and give the money onto the temple. Meaning you have a bunch of animals here. You can't just assume that each one's going to be maybe a bechor and take that money and give it to the temple. However, in a